Welcome to the Health Coach Nation podcast. My name is Hailey Rowe, and I'm a sales and marketing coach and LinkedIn lead generation service provider. I work with health, life, and mindset coaches and online service-based business owners to help them get more sales, shift their time to the client-generating activities instead of just the busy work, and overcome that social media overwhelm. Let's get into the show. If you've been working at your coaching business for a while, you might have found out by now that it's not as easy as you thought to get clients. If that is you, I want to invite you to check out my free workshop sharing how to go from crickets to clients, creating a freebie funnel formula. So in the series, I share with you how to make a freebie that people actually want, that they actually opt into, so that you can grow your email list, so that you always have an audience to share your offers with. And you always have an audience where they are being nurtured by you, they're moving through the sales cycle, and you're not stuck every time you have a launch feeling like you have zero eyeballs on your content. So if that has been you, if you've been stuck in that and you know you need a bigger audience, you know you need to nurture your audience, go to haileyrowe.com/live event, all one word, to get the free series and get started. Of Fee Modern, where she helps coaches and speakers elevate their online presence and amplify their impact with a high converting WordPress website and very intentional branding. With a passion for storytelling and community building, Fifa has worked with diverse female entrepreneurs who are heart-centered and help them share their expertise, which is something everyone listening here wants to do. And she also is the host of Coaching with Impact podcast and sought after speaker on branding, business growth, and digital presence. So thank you so much for coming here today. And I want to have you start by sharing a little bit about how did you even get into having an interest in branding and deciding that is what you want to help people with and doing websites and all of that.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to be here. I've always been a creative at heart. I've always been an artist. When I was younger, I've always drew a lot of stuff. So I knew I was very creative growing up. And then eventually, of course, with Asian parents, they want you to go into a specific field. So I tried to figure out what I actually wanted to do growing up. And my parents were like, no, just go to business. Or if you can't figure it out, just go to business or, do accounting or whatever. But obviously numbers is not my thing. And I'm like, no, I'm just going to stick with business, general business. And that's what I ended up graduating in. And over time, as I worked in corporate, as I worked in administrative jobs at the time, because I was living in Quebec and you need to know French if you want to have a really good job. And even though I've grown up there and I've lived there for so many years, my French really sucked. So I just kept hitting a ceiling. And during that time, I was really demotivated. I wanted to figure out what I was actually good at and what I could do outside of this regular administrative job. So I started picking up on different side hustles. And during that time, I picked up on 13 to 14 plus different side hustles over a span of 2 years, trying to just figure out what I actually liked to do, what I was good at. And a lot of it stemmed toward a creative field. And so I picked up on web design, I picked up on photography and all these different things that I was just trying to figure out, okay, what can I do? And it ended up turning towards branding or copywriting, but I didn't know about branding at the time. I just started doing drop shipping as one of my first projects. And that's when I realized the power of building your own personal brand through sharing your stories and through sharing all these different elements of building a brand. And I started to learn about it. And that's kind of how I started to build a personal brand, by just sharing my story on Instagram. And people started to pretty much just reach out and follow along on my journey. And then I learned okay, this is what personal branding is. You're just putting yourself out there. You're talking about your stuff. You're just taking people along for their journey, and they're gaining interest in what you do and who you are as a person. And that's kind of how it all started. And that's where the interest is.
That's so interesting. And that's so true about drop shipping, because really that is what differentiates your drop shipping product. It's like everyone can sell a yoga mat, but yours, they want your brand because it's the thing. They like you and they like your logo and they like the way it looks. So how, when you talk about personal branding, someone listening to this might think it's a little vague. Like, well, okay, share what I do, share who I am. What does that really look like, maybe on Instagram specifically?
So a lot of it has to do with storytelling. And this is a skill that a lot of people, like myself included now, I'm still learning how to properly tell stories, how to like which stories are good to portray and like talk about and share. So really it's all about mastering the skill of telling your story, but in a way that resonates with your audience. And so this is a really, really big key factor. And it also showcases what your values are and like who you are as a person, what your personality is. Like this is what personal branding is. It's like people are learning who you are as a person and whether or not they want to do business with you. So this builds a lot of trust. This builds a lot more credibility when they know how you started in the first place and what steps you've taken to get you to where you are today.
Awesome. I love that. And I think a lot of people too say, well, my story's not that cool, or, maybe they have a different story than their ideal clients. For example, maybe they coach on weight loss, but they've never been extremely overweight or something like that. So like, what would you say to someone who feels like, well, my story doesn't matter because I'm certified to help with XYZ, but I had different problems or something like that?
So I would say if you've helped, because you have a certain methodology, you have your experiences, you have your certifications, like the way that you teach basically is your differentiating factor in the way that you provide methodologies and stuff to help your clients. People would go to you because you are able to understand them in a specific way, you teach a certain way, or your personality resonates with them in some ways. So if you don't have the story yourself that, you've lost weight or whatnot, but you've been able to teach and learn about all these different methodologies that are uniquely the way that you teach it, that's something that you can be telling people about and also sharing about your own personal experiences based on what you've observed along the journey, and that has helped your clients in some way.
Gotcha. Okay. So if somebody who wants to have their personal brand be shared on their website, you have some tips about making your website higher converting and branding your website. I was actually doing a website audit for a client recently, and I was sharing with her, she's newer and she's new to my Work Smart Marketing Club, and we're getting clear on her messaging, but I could tell that her website wasn't at that stage where it's ready yet, because a lot of the copy on it was very like generic and just like, I don't really know who I am as a coach yet. And so how can somebody, what kind of things can we do on our homepage to be sharing our personal brand, not being generic, things like that?
So the storytelling piece is a big key factor, kind of like what I mentioned before, but really, really emphasizing on that personal experience, that particular differentiating factor. Because like if you go on any coach's website that does the same thing as you're going to see like a lot of it is the same messaging, at least like the ones that are not really like high converting and whatnot. But you have to be able to put yourself out there as the face of your brand, because that is what is uniquely you, right? So being able to emphasize on that, the messaging on that, and being clear so that your audience knows, okay, this person is different in some way, and just showcasing that and how your story goes along with that, then that will uniquely make you different from everybody else that's doing the exact same thing that you are doing.
Yeah, so your method or framework can be different. The way you do it can be different. Your story behind why you do it can be different. who you attract as clients, showing those people and who your tribe typically is and what kind of community you have can differentiate you. What are some other things that just in general help your website homepage convert better?
I would say a big thing that I've seen like a lot of people miss out on this is like having the process shown at the bottom. Like a lot of the times, like you're talking about your methodology, you're talking about how you can help people, but some people miss that part where, okay, what can I expect moving forward? And this is where you lay down your process. And that is something that I don't see on a lot of websites actually, and is something that's missing out on. So I would say that is a big one. And just being able to, I know a lot of people have freebies and all that stuff, but having your main core freebie and having that as like a really high value piece that people can just opt into and build trust with you on, that is a really, really big thing that you have to have on your website that is going to at least get them in your door, into your world, instead of just landing on your page, seeing what you have to offer, and then you're losing them, right? But at least having them really, really resonate with something and just get that from you, and then being able to nurture them through emails and whatnot, that's a really, really big one too.
Yes, I love that. What are some things that, maybe give examples on your Instagram? What kind of stories have you shared? What kind of things have gotten engagement? Things like that.
A lot of the ones that have gotten the most engagement is the ones that, of course, have my face in it, because people always resonate with you showing your face more often. But the stories that have really captured people's attentions are the ones that have come from my past. From, let's say, for example, now I'm talking about speakers, and like I'm trying to sell a specific program for a workshop that I have, right? But sharing about how I used to be called the mouse, and I used to be super quiet, super introverted. I still kind of am introverted, but I've grown throughout that journey. Now that I'm speaking on, podcasts like this says a lot about who I am as a person, but being able to showcase the little parts of you that you used to be, and then just showcasing that transformation of maybe like what happened, and showing like pieces of content, kind of taking people along that journey, it really entices them to want to tune in, right? Tune into your journey, tune into your content, and see like, how did this happen? This girl was super quiet, super introverted, and now she's teaching people how to create media kits. Like she's helping speakers, she's speaking on podcasts, stuff like that. These are the stuff that gets people really engaged. Just talking about the little pieces of your journey, those 5-second moments that you never really thought about that kind of clicked for you, and being able to tell that to your audience is what's going to help get them more engaged with your content, basically.
Yeah, I love that. And I'm curious, because your bio mentioned WordPress websites. Why do you like WordPress for websites more than some of the other ones out there?
The main thing is because as your business is growing, you could do so much more with WordPress as opposed to like Squarespace or Showit. Like Showit can be good too. I know like the CMS is still part of WordPress, but WordPress specifically can.
Okay, hold on. What's CMS for those?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, it's customer CMS, customer management system, something like that. Yeah, I always forget the terminology for it, but yes, good point that you brought there. WordPress is great for that because it can expand with your business and grow with your business as you are growing. So a lot of the time, Squarespace and Wix and whatnot, they have add-ons that can be really pricey. And if you you pay for them to manage and everything for you, but you're paying a premium for that, right? So WordPress can expand, and you can have a lot of plugins, all different types of plugins that can pretty much grow with you. So that's why I choose this as the number one platform. It's been around for so long, and it's such a big platform that people still trust. And as long as you know how to build it properly and have the right plugins and whatnot, then you can have a really, really solid foundation through just having a WordPress website from day one. And if you started with Wix or Squarespace and whatnot, and you decide to take it to WordPress later or whatnot because it's not working for your business, then it's going to be, you're going to have to start over from scratch. And that's one thing that I always emphasize with my clients.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and I think it's really important to have a website that you as the customer and client can go into and edit or add to or things like that. So even when working with a WordPress designer, like having them maybe show you, give you a tutorial or something like that, and making sure you're going to have full control over it. Because that's the other thing. Sometimes I've seen people get a Squarespace site or something, but they don't, it's like, I don't know, they get confused about how to edit it, or they don't have full control over it because they made a weird agreement with their web designer, and so stuff like that. So is there any kind of mistakes you see happening for people when they're trying to be a personal brand and brand themselves? Like any things to watch out for when really wanting to develop your personal brand?
I would say stay true to who you are as a person, because a lot of people copy. They see like a lot of, let's say, coaches that they admire, and then like they want to be like them, and then they lose their authentic voice, or they lose themselves in the process. I have seen this a couple of times, and I've seen myself fall into the same trap. So at those points where you see you're kind of losing yourself, you kind of feel like, okay, this is not really me, then it's time to kind of reflect and be like, okay, what are my true thoughts? What is my own thought leadership saying? Like, how can I develop this thought leadership so that I'm not copying what other people are saying? Or let's say, why am I holding myself back from saying something? Is it because it's not professional or whatnot? Like, these are some of the thoughts that can come up for you. And if you do think about that and you're holding yourself back from truly expressing your own authentic voice, then that's an issue. So that's something to work on, and something to always stay true to yourself. Don't copy what others are doing, because you're attracting a specific type of energy just by simply being yourself. So that's one thing I always emphasize with everybody.
For sure. Yeah. And as an entrepreneur yourself, I'm just curious, like, has there been anything that you have found really hard that you've navigated, or, just something that people listening who are like, yeah, I'm on this journey and I'm growing this, but it's so hard, or I'm in the middle of it and it's messy and I feel overwhelmed. Like, any maybe mistakes or things you've done to navigate that messy middle?
I guess I would say, lead generation is always the biggest thing, right? It's always one thing that I've always tried to figure out, especially at the beginning stages of your business. So I've tried so many different ways, and I've tried working with a lot of different coaches to tell me of like what works for them but might not work for me. And I didn't take that into consideration. I just thought of it as, okay, this is the right way to do because somebody is telling me to do it. But one thing that I would say is, when you're choosing a specific coach, like I would say, always work with a coach, always work with somebody to help mentor you, and have a mentor of some sort to take you along the journey and go past those, get those shortcuts, right? But of course, choosing the right coach is very important. So knowing what your personality is and knowing what the coach's personality is, you have to be able to find the right person for you. Because a lot of times, like I've worked with people who I thought was good for me, but then when they told me to do something and they expected me to do it, it just didn't work out because it just wasn't me. Like that's not my personality. Like I don't market that way, or I don't do things the way that they're telling me to do. And it's just super uncomfortable. And it's fine to be uncomfortable in some ways, but if it really takes away from your authentic self, then I would say, okay, rethink it. Of course, take what they say with a grain of salt, but always do things in your own way, but take some of their advice in some ways and try it, experiment for yourself to see what works for you. So that's one thing that I definitely always emphasize, and I've done that before.
Oh my gosh, for sure. I think that's also just part of the journey, is figuring out what you're looking for and how to, decide who you want to work with. And I think I just made a video about this actually yesterday, because I work with clients in the inner circle on their marketing plan, on their lead gen plan, and everyone's looks different because everyone is different in the program. Their strengths are different, their audience is different, what their talents are, that naturally we try to leverage those. So it's just to say, like, I give them options and we find which one from the buffet of options is right for them, because it's you guys could be doing the exact same process and it work for one person because it's aligned and their tone sounds good and they're like they believe it and they're backed into doing that like method, while someone else is doing the same exact process and steps and method, but their tone is shaky, they're not confident about it, they hate it, so they get inconsistent with it, so on and so forth, and then it doesn't work for them. So, and it's just like with sales call scripts, like I give outlines for how to lead your discovery calls and stuff like that, but I always say at the end of the day, you have to make this your own. You have to use this more as like a outline, but like we talked about, the best, you guys, one person could not be using the outline at all and close the sale because they were confident, convicted in their offer and naturally trusted their intuition, and the other person could use the script but not, because they're not confident in all of that. So I think that's a really important lesson to highlight. And one of my favorite quotes from Bruce Lee is, take what's useful, and I bring this to any program I'm in, take what's useful, discard what's not, and make it your own. So there's going to be stuff in every program that's not going to be 100% for you. There's going to be stuff that you do want to use, and then there's stuff that you want to like take some parts of it, but not the whole thing. So, okay, so that was a great little ending note. Where can people connect with you and find you?
So I'm most active on LinkedIn. So you just search in my name, Fifa Tran, and you can find me on LinkedIn. I have like a little flower next to my name, so you'll know it's me. And Instagram as well. You can just find me at Faye Modern. Yeah, that's it.
Cool. And we're actually going to hop over to Instagram right now, if you're watching this live, and do a couple rapid fire questions with Fifa. So thank you so much for being here. Thanks so much for listening to this podcast. And if it's really helpful for you, I'd really appreciate if you share it and or leave a written podcast review. This tells the podcast sites that our show is useful and it will be promoted to more people that way. Thanks again.